Now we will be introduced to small series textile value creation back in Europe, the digital textile microfactory, by our speaker, Thomas Fischer, Deputy Director Management Research at Deutsche Institute für Textil und Faserforschung, Denkendorf, Germany.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction, and especially for the presentation by Lutz, because I will show you an example on how we can do the thing and how we can have a showcase on small series production, digital production, local production. Okay, just a little bit of advertisement. For those of you who don't know, the ITF in Denkendorf, close to Stuttgart, Europe's largest textile and research center, founded almost 100 years ago. That shows you that we have tradition, but we also look into the future because we think about digital solutions and modern solutions. We have 3 research centers connected to the University of Stuttgart and to other schools. And we do everything from the molecule, from the chemistry guys that kind of mix new molecules, do the polymerization, everything, new types of materials, intelligent materials, and all the way up through the processing, up to the final products, which can be clothes, but which can be also medical products and other products. So you see the segments, we have fibers, yarns, but we also have smart textiles, medical technologies, medical textiles, things that go into your body, and also lightweight design for buildings, for cars, for mobility. So let's have a look at what we're doing today. I will show you a little bit the digital textile microfactory. Some of you might have seen it in Frankfurt some weeks ago at the Process Textile. It's the basic setting and some pilot lines, some application aspects, and finally some conclusions. So we already seen these trends presented by Lutz. First of all, if you produce something in a digital way, that you first understand what you're going to produce, adjust it to customer needs, the whole value chain changes. You first sell, somebody has to press a I buy button or I want button or whatever, and then you produce. That really is a change in the paradigm, in the way you work, in the way you organize your production. You don't produce 60,000 on stock and then try to sell them. First, no, you have the idea what you produce, you customize it, you individualize it, and then you start the production. And this is something that is really changing the industry. So we try to stay as long digital as possible. So we start with a digital 3D design, and we try to stay as long digital in the production phase as possible. So we will have concepts like digital shadows and digital twins, where we constantly monitor what is happening in reality and what is happening according to our development path, our digital twin, and try to align these as long as possible. And this brings us, of course, to a lot of integration of digital things. We will have process control, process settings, we will have a lot of data, and we can have a look at this data, we can make smart data analysis, we can apply AI, because we have this data, as we have seen also in the presentation by Festo. Along the supply chain, we're going to create data and we're going to match it with what we developed beforehand. So the basic setting, and this is very standard, and I guess you all have seen this, try to stay as long in the development. We do the 3D cut, and the 3D cut means not only that we have a cut system, this might also include that we have a scan system. Because we know every human body is different, and if we want to produce something that really fits to human bodies, we have to know what this human body looks like. And this is important either for production, or if you think of it, it's important for the e-commerce. Because you're staring at your mobile phone and you see 5 different types of jeans, and you don't know exactly which type of jeans is fitting to my body without trying them on. And there could be some digital representation of your body. You can use your iPhone or whatever and scan your body and then compare it to the jeans in the shop, and then you order the best fitting jeans. Also, this is a digital representation, and this is also offering new digital business models, not only style advising, but also size advising. Yeah, digital as long as possible. Try to match the digital world and the physical world. The physical world in clothing is very often the human body, but also for technical applications. If you think of burn garments or orthotics or whatever, anything that has to fit the human body, you can measure it, you can scan it, you have a digital model, and you can match this digital model with that what you're going to produce. This is important. Then we have the file, the RIP file, the PDF file. And this is much more complicated than it looks like here, because if you want to produce something, you need to know what you can produce, for example, in terms of color. We know digital printing is going ahead. You can see a lot of nice companies doing digital printing, but the color range is not 100%. You cannot produce all colors in the world. You cannot print all colors. It depends if you print on fabric, cotton fabric, on polyester fabric, on any type of fabric. You have a different color space, and therefore we need to know, we need to match the real world again. We can do a spectral analysis of the things we can print and bring these colors back into the cut system and to the design system, so we can only design with the colors we can then in the end print. Again, this is the bringing together physical world and real world. Printing and cutting, these are processes that can be guided by the files, of course. So the printer knows what to print, this is obvious, but also the cutting machine knows what to cut. We can print cut marks. We have digital cameras, we have analysis. If there was some shrinkage in between, so the pieces are a little bit smaller or a little bit different from what they had been designed originally. So we match again the physical world with the real world, also in the cutting. And the next would be the sewing. We don't have this on the slide, but also the sewing can be digital, because you can provide information to the sewing machine on instructions how to sew a certain piece you have developed here. In terms of yarn, tension, or whatever, you can provide information. Even a training video comes with the designed product up to the sewing machine. So at the sewing machine, you have a little monitor, and the guy or the person at the sewing machine knows what to do for this special product, individualized. So stay as long digital as possible. And we had this at the Textil fair, and this is just a showcase, and this shall create your creativity. You have to set up your business lines, you have to set up your production lines, you have to come up with the right business model. We just have the technological feasible showcase, and we can advise you how to mix these things together. This is not something you can buy and install somewhere. This is just a showcase on how things could work together. So here we had the 3D design. Then we had the color and RIP files. We also included some virtual and augmented reality, because people want to try on what they have designed here. They want to see how it looks like. They want to see how it works. They want to see how the beach wear looks at the beach. So you can have a beach in the virtual reality. And this is something for end users, but this is also something, of course, if you look at product development. You have, for a global brand, you have experts all around the world, and there's no need to really produce physical samples and all the experts come together. No, you can have virtual samples, and the people meet virtually and do the decision making about what is going to be produced, what is not going to be produced. All these decisions in product development can be taken virtually. Then we have the printing and the fixation. We have the cutting and the assembling. As I told you, also the machines know already, have some information about the product they are going to produce. We have QR codes, we have scanning, so we have this tracking and monitoring, as Lutz was mentioning. So we know at exactly what time, which person, which machine, what was produced, where and how. And then we come up with the final product. And this is something we showed on in a room like this, you can produce individualized clothing. We also had a technical line. We did little bags. This is basically the same process, although it's a completely different product. But you have to bring the building blocks or the puzzle pieces together in a different way. You can skip certain processes because this is a special material that is prepared for printing, so you don't need a thermofixation. You can print directly on this something like artificial leather, and then you don't need a thermofixation. And with this one, you can also do the automatic picking. We have a technology development that allows automatic picking with a vacuum picking head that was adjusted to a normal transportation system, and then we had automatic transportation. So this is also for us a showcase where we can do some additional research. We can research on how to automatically pick a cutted piece of textile from the cutter and put it on an automatic transportation system. Then we had the knitting line. Knitting is very interesting because knitting is the oldest additive manufacturing process in the world. if you think of it. It's really additive manufacturing at its best, and therefore you can individualize it. And we had a nice workflow where we had 18 minutes from the foot scan. You scan your foot. We have the shape of your individual foot. We do some magic with the algorithms, and the magic of the algorithm is transforming this 3D mesh of your foot into a knittable file. That will be one shoe that is fitting to your foot exclusively. And the whole thing, of course, there's some mathematics behind it and some engineering behind it, and you need to know, of course, the material. You need a material library and the elasticity of the yarns and everything and the machine settings. So it has to be an integrated digital solution. But then you have a time of 30 minutes on the stone machines, flat knitted shoes, which are individualized in terms of color, of course. This is something you can do. This is standard, but also individualized in terms of shape, which will bring the perfect fit. The thing is that I think about 20% of all people have different feet, left and right. And this is a way you can solve this problem. And of course, as I said, this is something we do not put there and say, okay, that's it, but we do some research around this one. Yeah, we do research, and one thing is big data analysis, one thing is smart data analysis. We can, of course, analyze the production data, we can analyze the machine data, but also, as I've said, the body scan data is important because it gives a valuable input to the production. So we do body shape analysis. Yes, you see on the lower picture, body shape analysis. I learned there are 7 types of bellies for men. There's some small bellies, and there's the eating belly, and the drinking belly, and the beer belly, or whatever. There are different types of bellies. And if you do a lot of research on that, you spend your holidays in a different way. If you're sitting at the seaside and watching people, you start staring at bellies. But anyway, it's interesting. We do a morphotype determination thing, and of course, then it's when companies like Festo and other companies and IT companies come in and bring additional input, how to do big data analysis, and suddenly you end up programming neural networks and stuff. So it's interesting if you start to go digital, also from a research perspective. Of course, there are some technical applications. How do you do this? Do you set up the factory in the shop, or do you set up the shop in the factory? How do you set up the whole thing? Is it a standalone factory, or do you have a interconnected, connected thing? Is it the top floor of the warehouse here at Plaza Catalunya, or is it somewhere outside in an industry hall? What is the business model, and is there a subscription model? Is there an exclusive thing? Is there some consultation? Do you have a designer that is giving you some guidance for 35 minutes and you pay per minute or whatever? What is the business model behind it? How does it work? This is something you have to come up with. We can show you the showcases, we can show you the building blocks. It's like Lego, and you have to set up your factory. And of course, the business model. The business model is important, as we already heard. And there are even European research projects that deal only with business models. Fashion big data business model. FBD model is a nice European project where we set up 5 typical scenarios that we think react to the demands of the future. Scenario 1 would be an interconnected local value chain where you have localized producers, small series producers, maybe even handcraft or whatever, and they are regionally forming a creation chain. Or you have globally networked value creation based on digital information. We can have this hybrid product and service providing thing that you go there and you might end up having your piece repaired, or you have your piece replaced, or you can change, or you will have a new piece. You don't know exactly. It's a hybrid thing. Or it could be even open manufacturing, open innovation, where you come with an idea and you don't know what you want to buy. You come with an idea and you try something out and you are creative. It's Fab Lab thing. Young people having ideas, young people having some kind of idea of the technology, but they don't know exactly everything about materials, and so they get some advice, and in the end they come up with a community shirt, or with a shirt for their school class, or a shirt for their friends holiday trip or whatever. And finally, this made-to-measure thing is important, where you have maybe a body scanner, maybe only a mobile phone, whoever knows what the future will bring there. So business model innovation is really the big thing, and Another example, Lutz was already mentioning a couple of them, is blacksocks.com. Black socks is something all men buy but don't like to buy. And I think even 20 years ago, the Swiss company set up a subscription service for black socks. They experimented with it and they did some additional things. So they have smart socks. The socks know if it's a left or right sock. The sock might even know if it's still, if you take a picture with a mobile phone and block the sock, knows if it's still black enough to be a black sock or if you have to replace it. So there are a couple of interesting things around that. You can really create lots of ideas if you even on a black sock. And you can do much more on more clothing. And of course, sustainability. Yes, this is the carbon footprint of the t-shirts we produced at the microfactory. This is the carbon footprint, 2.8 kilograms of CO2 equivalent on a shirt produced in Frankfurt at our microfactory. This is done according to the material flow cost accounting methodology, the MFCA model. This is a standardized procedure. This is nothing we invented, but we applied. We applied for textile and clothing. We set up the models. You see the different production steps. We have printing, we have the calendar, the cutter, everything. We took care of the waste paper if you have transfer print and stuff. What goes in, electricity, gas, heat, all types of energy. What goes in terms of material. What is the waste, what is the packaging, what is the transport, what are the processes, and then in the end you have the CO2 equivalent. You can do this. You can do this if it's a microfactory. You can do this, but it's much more work if it's a global supply chain. You can imagine, and you need some standard databases. Okay, organic cotton has a certain value. You cannot go to Africa and measure the amount of water they use to plant for the plants. You need some databases, of course. But there are some databases available, there's some basic data available, and then you can really, like Lego again, put together your process model. Do you have a calendar? Do I have a digital printer? Do I have a whatever printer? Do you have a knitting machine? How much electricity and how much needles do you need for the knitting machine? And then you can ask your needle provider what was the CO2 equivalent for one needle, and then you can multiply and everything. You can go into detail if you want to. You can also consider the sewing thread and all that stuff, and then you can come up with a number. And I think it's okay if it's 2.8 or 2.9. And maybe you forgot the sewing thread, and then it might be even 2.91. But it's important to have an idea, and important to have an idea on a level where you can say plus minus a number of percent, and that's it, and then you have a range, and then you can compare it with other products. You don't have to make it perfect. Start and give the people an idea and compare it to other products and to other things. And then make it transparent, and then you can see what are the big things, what are the big lines and what are the small lines. Then you can improve, and then you can choose the better processes, and then you can improve the processes according to all the new machinery you see here. Okay, this was a quick overview about our digital microfactory. And it's not something you can buy, it's not something you can put there, but it's just trying to boost your ideas. And for us, as I showed you, it's boosting research along this thing in terms of AI, machine learning, digital twin, digital product, body scan technology, process technology, planning technology, but also sustainability analysis and business models. So it's a lot of things you need to take care of, but if you come to us, we can give you some advice. Thanks. We have a booth over there. Of course, we don't have the microfactory with us, but you can find me at the booth or my colleagues over there. We can have a little chat. And if not, then come to Denkendorf, close to Stuttgart. It's also a nice place.